Hello and welcome to another Warlock Wednesday. This is the Warlock Hour with Razor, and I'm here to bring you the news. But first, I want to say something that's been on my mind since Friday. If you've watched any news or been on the internet at all, you know about the shooting that happened this past Friday at Sandy Hook Elementary. I just want to take a moment right now of silence. Okay. Sandy Hook Elementary School, as we know, was the site for the latest shooting, and it's sad. I'm not going to get too much into it because it spawns way too much arguments about politics and other stuff. I do want to say one name that was brought to my attention, Victoria Soto. She was a teacher at the school. She was 27 years old. And she was shot protecting her class. The gunman, I will not name him. I'm not giving a name to him. That's one thing I'm taking a stand on. We shouldn't be talking about him. So, Victoria Soto was shot by the gunman when she told him that the students were in the gym, as opposed to where they actually were, which was hiding in the cabinets so that they would not be killed. So I just want to salute Victoria Soto. She will be missed. Alright, on with the sad news, on to the show. This is my second podcast, and I hope you are enjoying it so far. I'm going to go right into the numbers, and this is a big weekend for movies, as The Hobbit opened in 3D. That's right, The Hobbit is the prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Peter Jackson is making this a trilogy, which is just bullshit in my opinion. It's all about making money. Now I'm going to go see the movie. I still haven't seen it yet myself. I've been working all weekend, so I haven't had the opportunity. But The Hobbit has raked in the most money for a December release. Now it's a record only for the month. It's not a record for biggest opening weekend. It made $84.6 million this weekend, which was put it ahead of I Am Legend from 2007, which was at $77 million. And it was also up a little bit from The Lord of the Rings Return of the King, which made $73 million with the that was the third installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So it improved a little bit, but considering today's prices of tickets and also the technology with the 3D and the HFR, it's surprising that it only made $84.6 million. I expected it to reach the $100 million mark in its opening weekend, but it did not. So, is it a failure? No. Is it a complete success? I would say not. I would say this is a successful movie. It will probably be... Sorry, I can't speak. Need a drink. Alright. It will probably be a $300 million movie. I think it can top that at some point. But the opening weekend is slow. Now, what's going to help is that we have the holidays coming up, and that means more people are going to be out getting to movies. School's ending for the kids. Kids are coming back from college. They're going home. They're going to want to watch a movie. The Hobbit's going to get great word of mouth. I would expect to see not much of a drop-off in the second weekend, especially with not too much opening this coming week. We have Monsters, Inc. and Guilt Trip opening on Wednesday, and we have Reacher, which is the big one, opening on Friday. Those are the three kind of movies that are coming out this week. Now, Monsters, Inc. will definitely bring the little kids to the theater, and some of the parents obviously bringing them, but I still think The Hobbit will hold its own. I could see it making another $80 million even. It's quite possible with the holiday weekend. So with that being number one, let's see how the rest of the top 10 shaped out. We got Rise of the Guardians, which held on to that second spot with $7.1 million. Dropping to fourth was Skyfall with just under $7 million at 6.5. So the new number 3 spot went to Lincoln at $7 million, just over $7 million. Now, I find that a little surprising considering at the theater that I work at, that movie is actually gone. It is not playing at our theater, so the screens, while they increased in number this week, they went up by 271 screens. We lost it, so I don't know where the the money came from. I guess because they did increase by 271 screens, you increase the profit just a little bit more for people wanting to go see it. Now that's got big Oscar buzz, so obviously Lincoln's going to be strong. Skyfall still strong, still raked in just over $6.5 million, and sitting strong in 4th place. 5th place was Life of Pi, and that same as last week. They were in 5th place, $5.4 million this week. Twilight dropping another 3 spots down to 6th, and they made in another $5.1 million. Wreck-It Ralph sitting still at 7th, and $3.2 million. Playing for Keeps dropped from 6th to 8th and is brought in $3 million. Red Dawn dropped from 8th to 9th, not a big drop, $2.4 million. And Silver Linings Playbook actually up a spot from 10th to 11th with 2.1. Now, Silver Linings Playbook, their total gross right now is about $16 million, but they're only playing on 371 screens. Now, this is expected to increase after the holidays, so sometime early January, we should expect to see the screen, like a wide release for Silver Linings Playbook. I know my theater did not get the movie. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting it in the new year. But it's a movie with we've got the girl from Hunger Games, name's eluding me right now, Jennifer Lawrence, and then we have, of course, Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro also playing in the flick. So this is a movie that I'm very much interested in seeing, but gonna have to wait. They expect that around, I think it's the 10th of January, the Oscar nominations come out, and the 18th of January is when Jennifer Lawrence is going to be hosting SNL. So I expect it to be somewhere around there. They're going to get the Oscar buzz going, and the promotion with the SNL appearance by Jennifer Lawrence. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. It looks like a funny movie. It looks like a good movie for just about anyone. Maybe not kids per se, but I think anybody from age probably about 20 and up are going to enjoy this film. Like I said, it's got serious Oscar buzz. It did really well at the Toronto International Film Festival. So Silver Linings Playbook, it rounded out the top 10, and looking forward to seeing that in the new year. Now, I got some interesting tidbits this week. I got some fun stuff that I found in famous actors who turned down some very famous roles. Now, this one is probably well known. I heard about it probably when The Matrix first came out. But Will Smith was actually on tap to play Neo. Whoa, that would have been funny. Probably a little weird too. But Will Smith turned down the role, and as we all know, it was made famous by the Canadian Keanu Reeves. He's not Canadian. No, but Keanu did take the role, and he made it his own, and I love the first Matrix movie, but the next two, it was all downhill. Another famous actor turning down famous roles, Matt Damon. He turned down not only the lead role in Avatar, but he turned down Dark Knight's Harvey Dent. Now, he didn't just say, no, I don't want to do it. These were more scheduling conflicts due to other works he had contracted out and couldn't get out of, so he turned down those roles. Now, I wouldn't have minded seeing Matt Damon as Harvey Dent. That, I think, would have been really cool. As for Avatar, I think he was okay missing out on that, other than the fact that Avatar is the biggest grossing movie of all time. Jack Nicholson, he turned down Michael Corleone. Now, the reasons he says is because, let's face it, he said that Italian roles should be played by Italian actors, especially in a movie that's really based as The Godfather was. So, hence, Jack Nicholson turned down the role. Johnny Depp turned down Ferris Bueller. I think that was a smart move for all of us. Dankeschön, Johnny Depp. Dankeschön. Leonardo DiCaprio turned down the role of Dirk Diggler in Boogie Nights, and that was because he was not familiar with the director Paul Thomas Anderson. Now Leonardo DiCaprio wants to work with him, but Dirk Diggler has already been made famous by, of course, Marky Mark. Molly Ringwald turned down 2 roles. She turned down both Pretty Woman and Ghost. Maybe she should have thought about that more because she kind of, disappeared after like Breakfast Club and all that. But it was good news for Julia Roberts, who played in Pretty Woman, and Demi Moore, who played in Ghost. It kind of launched their careers, got them kickstarted. So Molly Ringwald turned down both those roles. Kevin Costner turned down Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. I'm kind of glad he did, but Waterworld strikes again. He was busy doing the biggest flop of his career, Waterworld, when that movie was being made, so unfortunately he did turn it down. Emily Blunt, she turned down the role of Black Widow in Iron Man 2. Personally, I'm actually thankful she did. I thought Scarlett Johansson was great as Black Widow, and she turned down the role, unfortunately, to do the box office flop Gulliver's Travels. Now, I don't mind Emily Blunt. I think she's a good actress. I think she's very pretty, but I think Scarlett Johansson in that black leather suit is just hot. Let's face it. Alright, Sir Sean Connery, who's on the verge of retirement when these roles were offered to him, is probably understandable why he turned them down, although he has admitted that he regretted both decisions. He was up for both Morpheus in The Matrix and Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, personally, I'm glad he didn't do either of them. I think that Morpheus, was a good role for Lawrence Fishburne. I think that's all it was good for. It wouldn't have worked, don't think, with Sir Sean Connery. As for Gandalf, I really love Sir Ian McKellen, and I think Sir Ian McKellen really does pull off a great Gandalf. Could Sir Sean Connery have done them? Absolutely. But I'm glad he decided not to, and now he's retired, so that's good. Lastly, hard as it is to believe, Tom Selleck was ahead of Harrison Ford when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg made Indiana Jones. I find that an interesting choice, and maybe it might have been interesting to see. But, Tom Selleck was actually number one, or not number one, I don't know if he was number one, but he was definitely ahead of Harrison Ford when George and Steven were making the role of Indiana Jones. As we all know, became famous for Harrison Ford playing in two of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg's franchises, well, not both of them together, but, with Star Wars and Indiana Jones, he became really famous through doing that. That leads me to another tidbit I found this week. A lot of people talk about who is better in the movies, Marvel or DC. Now, when we look at the numbers, Marvel does own the edge. They have made $5,652,579,190. DC has made $3,954,764,322. So basically, Marvel has made $5.6 billion, and DC has made $3.9 billion, which is really a gap of about $1.5 billion. It's kind of a big gap, but we take into consideration that DC has only released 19 movies under their banner, and Marvel has released 28. Now, you can also look at it like this. DC started first. Their first movie was Batman the Movie in 1966, starring Adam West as Batman, making $91.9 million. So they started making movies in 1966, but then they took 12 years off. And then they made Superman the Movie in 1978. And then from there, they kind of made a lot of Superman movies in a row. They made Superman 2 in 81, Superman 3 in 83, Supergirl in 84, Superman 4 in 87. Then we get into Tim Burton's Batman in 89, and then that's when they kind of spaced out almost like every 3 or so years. We had Batman Returns in 92, Batman Forever in 95, Batman and Robin in 97. We also had Steel in 97. A few of you might want to forget that one, and so does DC, considering it only made $2 million. That's right, a whole movie with Shaquille O'Neal, and made $2.4 million. That was the gross. Not very good for DC, so they're trying to forget that one, but it was a DC title. 2004 was their next movie, so they took another 7 years gap there, making Catwoman another flop, but still made more than Steel at $48 million. Batman Begins in 2005, as we know, started the resurgence of DC, and then they gave us Superman Returns. Now, Superman Returns did make $221 million, which actually shocks me. It was such a bad movie overall that it shocks me that it made that much. My only conclusion is that everybody wanted a Superman movie so bad that they had to go see it. They rushed out to see it. It made probably a huge bank opening weekend, and then kind of petered out from there. But 221 million seems like a lot of money for a movie that really sucked. After that, they came out in 2008 with Dark Knight, and that was their biggest one at 567 million. And before that, their biggest one was 471 million, which was Superman the movie. And that was back in 78. So it took them 30 years rather, to make another $450+ million movie. Then they came out with The Watchmen in 2009, Jonah Hex, which was another kind of flop for them in 2010 with only $11 million. Green Lantern. See, now Green Lantern made $118 million. Now that's something I would have expected from Superman Returns. $118 million basically stresses to me that, yeah, everybody rushed out to see it opening weekend, probably made about $60-70 million opening weekend, and then dropped off because it was such a poorly done movie. Personally, I enjoyed it. It was a decent movie. It was enjoyable. However, I've never read the Green Lantern comics, so for me, it was just an entertainment thing. It had Ryan Reynolds, who I like as an actor. He's Canadian. Got to represent my homeboys. Except for Justin Bieber, we're gonna leave him out of anything Canadian. But Ryan Reynolds, definitely have to support him. 118 million. That's what I expect from a movie that was hyped and then sucked. Dark Knight Rises in 2012, 443 million, kind of dropped off of The Dark Knight, but I mean, come on, 443 million, I'd take that any day. Then you look at the Marvel side. They didn't start making movies till 86, so this is 20 years after after DC started making movies with their first flick, Howard the Duck. Now, I love this movie. It is funny, it is entertaining, it's mind-numbingly enjoyable. If you ever want to watch a movie and not have to think about anything else, watch Howard the Duck. It is great. Unfortunately, the box office didn't agree with me. It only made 31 million. But this was the first Marvel movie that they made, not through the studios, but definitely as the title Marvel. And that's another thing with Marvel. A lot of their products are owned by different companies, but we're just doing all the Marvel movies from the comic books. So this will include the X-Men, the Spider-Mans, and everything else. 1998, they came out with Blade, 98 million, still under the $100 million mark. 2000, X-Men. So now, in just 14 years, they've only made 3 movies. It took DC longer. They started 20 years earlier, and they made 3 movies in... It took them, let's see, a quick calculation here, probably just under 20 years. So... they're kind of close in that respect, but again, Marvel started later. But Marvel pumped out the movies from 2000 on. So 2000 we get X-Men, 2002 we get Blade 2, 2002 we also got Spider-Man, 2003 was a big year. We got X2, Daredevil, and Hulk. Now Daredevil, yes, everybody admits that Ben Affleck did a horrible job playing Daredevil. However, the movie still made $127 million. No small chunk of change, but... It made more than Green Lantern. That's all we got to say there. Made more than Catwoman. That's all we got to say there. Moving on to Hulk in 2003, that made $164 million. Again, I think that a lot of that came from opening weekend. It did really well, but then dropped off because it was such a bad movie. Eric Bana was terrible as both Banner and the CG Hulk. CG Hulk was absolutely horrendous. 2004 gave us 3 more Marvel movies. We got Spider-Man 2, Blade Trinity, and The Punisher. Now, The Punisher was the lowest of those 3 that year, Spider-Man 2 being the highest at $453 million. The Punisher with Thomas Jane is my absolute favorite Punisher. I thought it was really well done. Yeah, they changed some of the storylines around, and some people don't understand. They say, well, he's supposed to be from New York. Yeah, he was. The problem was because the company that owned the rights to The Punisher and the company that owned the rights to Spider-Man were fighting. The people, Sony, who owns Spider-Man, didn't want the Punisher in New York because they didn't want any misconceptions that they might meet. Because we all know that the Punisher appeared in a Spider-Man comic first. So they just wanted to dispel that. Hence, they moved him to Tampa Bay. They made him an FBI agent and everything else. So, I mean, you have some leniency. I think if Marvel had done it, they might have done it differently, like the studio Marvel, not just the comic book company. However, at this time, a lot of their properties were optioned off to other studios. So Punisher gets made, and again, it's my favorite one. 2005 gave us 2 movies and 2 Well, Fantastic Four was a decent movie. It made $181 million, which again, no small change. But when you compare it to other juggernauts, it's not that great. Even Batman Forever made $276 million. Now, Batman Forever was the first Batman that had somebody else playing him, because Michael Keaton played Batman in both Batman and Batman Returns. But then Val Kilmer took over for Batman Forever. Personally, he even worse for me than Clooney in a way, and Clooney was really bad. But when you compare Fantastic Four to that, they didn't quite make it there. But again, $181 million, pretty darn good. I like the cast. I like the story. I think where they screwed up is when they made the Fantastic Four 2. But the other movie that year, Elektra, $28.6 million. That kind of... I think it took heat because Daredevil was so bad and nobody wanted to see Elektra anyways. However, I think if Marvel owned the properties and made these movies themselves, they would have been better movies. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked. 2006, we only had one Marvel movie, X-Men Last Stand. Now, the movie did well financially. Made $266 million, which is better than both X2 and X-Men. X-Men made 209, and X2 made 261. So just a little bit better than X2. But, again, the story to this was bad. A lot of the actors wanted to leave. They ended up killing off Cyclops. They ended up killing off Professor Xavier. I mean, it was just like... maybe they were seeing into the future. I don't know. But it was just not what I expected from an X-Men movie at the time. But again, Fox has the rights to it, so they can do with it what they please. 2007 saw 3 more Marvel movies. Spider-Man 3, which probably ended Sam Raimi's Spider-Man run because he wanted to do it his way, Sony wanted to do it their way, he did it their way, and from there on, everybody bashes Spider-Man 3. However, made $371 million. If that's a bad movie, I want to make a bad movie because I want that kind of money. Ghost Rider came out, to much chagrin to a lot of people. They thought Nicolas Cage was horrible. I personally thought, as the character, he was fine. I think the horribleness came in the script. However, we'll come back to that. The other movie that year was Fantastic Four 2, which, again, like I said, that's where they dropped the ball. They made Galactus a cloud. And that ends it. That right there made that movie horrible. From this point on, Marvel Studios started doing their own movies along with the movies that were coming out from the companies that had their other option products. Marvel does not own all their rights even now. But their first movie, Iron Man, did great. $338 million for the first movie that Marvel Studios put out on its own is pretty damn good in my opinion. So, 2008 brought us Iron Man, Punisher Warzone, and The Incredible Hulk. Now, the lowest movie I already said for DC was Steel at $2.4 million. That being said, the lowest movie for Marvel still beat it. The lowest movie for Marvel was Punisher Warzone at $8.5 million. That movie, I refuse to see. I will not watch it. I don't know how good or bad it is, but obviously, financially speaking, it's horrible. Which is why the company, I don't even remember which company put it out. I think it was New Line Cinema that might have had the rights to it. They have reverted the rights back to Marvel because they just couldn't afford it anymore. I believe Marvel's making a TV series out of it. That's the rumors anyway, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But Punisher Warzone was the worst Marvel movie at 8.5, which still beats the worst DC movie at 2.4. The other movie that year, The Incredible Hulk, we changed Hulks. We got... I want to say Anthony Edwards, but that's not it. Edward Norton playing the Hulk, and he played Banner very well. Probably not as well as Bill Bixby, and I'm a child of the 80s, so I grew up watching the 70s Hulk, and Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno for me are Banner and Hulk all the way. However, CGI being what it is, technology being what it is, we still got another CGI Hulk. Bit better than Hulk, but not much. They make him too big. Like, he's listed, I believe, 9 feet, I want to say, and they make him monstrosity. Like, he's freaking taller than skyscrapers. It's just ridiculous. Like, I understand they wanted to get the size across, but the CG was terrible. However, I did enjoy the movie overall. It was definitely better than Eric Bana's Hulk, so Edward Norton, I was hoping was going to come back for Avengers. That didn't happen, as we all know. 2009, just one movie from Marvel, X-Men Origins Wolverine. A lot of people bashed this movie. There were some, shall we say, screw-ups. There was not consistencies. However, overall, it was a decent, enjoyable movie, and let's face it, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is always cool. He plays the character very well, even if the script is bad. The special effects were kind of not so great, with the claws bending the weird ways that they were in some of the scenes. Maybe they should have worked on that more, so I'm hoping the next Wolverine movie will be better as far as that's concerned. I'm not expecting Hugh Jackman to change very much. He's very good at playing Logan/Wolverine. 2010, again, only saw one Marvel movie, Iron Man 2, which again, another $328 million. So, when you pit the Iron Man movies, just the 2 Iron Man movies against the 2 Batman movies, the first 2 Batman movies, they're very close in numbers. When you add them up, you got about 8 million, just over 8 million for Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and you have just under 7 million for Iron Man and Iron Man 2. That's pretty darn good when you compare just the studio movies that were the biggest at their times, Iron Man 2, and Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Then 2011 came along, and we had a slew. And when I say slew, we had 4 Marvel movies come out in 2011. 3 of them did fairly well, one of them not so much. The one not so much was Ghost Rider 2 starring Nicolas Cage. Now this is where I said we'd come back to. I said Nicolas Cage played really well in the first Ghost Rider, and I still think he did. I think the problem was definitely the script, not Nicolas Cage. However, in Ghost Rider 2, I think it was everything. It was the script. It was Nicolas Cage. It was the storyline. It was everything that could be wrong with that movie was. And I think, yeah, it probably took a lot of hits from people who didn't like the Ghost Rider movie, but Ghost Rider 2 was definitely a big flop for Marvel, or for Sony, which is why I believe they are letting the rights go back to Marvel Studios, which is now Disney, just because of that. I mean, it only made $52 million, and it cost a lot more than that to make. So, that being said, Ghost Rider 2, probably not going to see a Ghost Rider movie for quite some time, as Disney is swarmed with making movies. Now, in 2011 began a lead-up into one of the biggest movies of all time. And we also had Thor and Captain America come out that year, both put out by the Marvel Studios itself / Disney. Thor made $184 million, Captain America made $179 million. Nowhere near the Batman Begins or the Dark Knight. However, these 2 characters are not very popular as Batman is. Batman is probably... You can ask anybody to name a superhero, and they're going to give you probably one of 3 choices. They're going to give you Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man. Those are the 3 choices you're probably going to hear the most. Percentage-wise, you're going to probably have Batman and Superman very close to being number 1. Personally, I think it's probably Batman, but Superman was one of the first movies that they kind of pushed really much. Like, I mean, in 78, 81, 83, and 87, we had Christopher Reeve, the quintessential Superman, playing him on the big screen. So, I mean, those 3, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, are going to get named more than any other superhero. Maybe not today, but before these comic book movies started dominating from about 2000 on, you would probably get those 3 answers. So Batman already has this huge following. I know this because on the internet, you can't get away from Batman. You can't. Everywhere you go, it's Batman this, Batman that, Batman this, Batman that. Don't get me wrong. As a Marvel guy, and I am a Marvel guy, DC only characters that I like are from the Batman universe. I love Batman, I love Batgirl, and I love Harley Quinn. Those are probably my 3 favorite DC characters, all from the Batman universe. Oh, can't forget the Joker and Heath Ledger as the Joker. Like, I mean, if they do another Batman series, I pity the person who's going to play Joker after that. Now, I said the same thing after Jack Nicholson, because Jack Nicholson was great, but let's face it, Heath Ledger made the Joker his own. Back to the Marvel movies. So Thor, Captain America come out. Not Captain America is a little probably well known than Thor, although Thor made the better money. Both of them are not very huge characters on their own. They're more known as part of the Avengers. But Marvel was doing their own little plan. They wanted to lead in these movies. They had the Iron Man movies already going, which were succeeding very well. I think a large part of that has to go to Robert Downey Jr., but the Thor and Captain America, their first ones, were really good. I enjoyed both of them. Actually, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed Captain America. I wanted to see it because it was a comic book movie. I'm a Marvel fan, wanted to support it and everything, but I was so shocked at how much I actually enjoyed it. I even took a friend with me who hates comic book movies really not that much, other than Wolverine. She loves Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but she's not a big comic book movie fan. She even enjoyed Captain America. That's how good this movie was. The last one that came out in 2011 for Marvel, X-Men First Class. I had such a beef with this movie when it came out. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the movie. It was a great mutant movie, not a great X-Men First Class movie. And you can't see it, but I'm doing quotation fingers. Quotation fingers. How lame. Anyways, X-Men First Class was a good movie. They did very well with it. However, it wasn't the First Class. Sorry, I needed a drink there. It wasn't the First Class. If anybody who reads comics knows, the First Class for the X-Men were Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. Those were the 5. It wasn't even Wolverine in the beginning. Those were the 5 students that Professor Xavier started with. They weren't in the movie. Angel was, I think, and Beast was. But I just can't remember right offhand right now. But they had other mutants, because they already showed most of these mutants in the original X-Men movies, and this was a reboot. They brought back Xavier as younger. He was able to walk. He doesn't get paralyzed till the end of the movie. Spoilers. And Magneto is and Xavier are friends. Like, sorry, I should say Eric and Xavier are friends, because he doesn't really become Magneto per se till near the end of the movie. Again, spoilers. But it was a very well done movie, and I'm actually looking forward to the sequel. This is where I got my first hint at Jennifer Lawrence, who played in the Hunger Games, which I really enjoyed, and I think she's going to be a great actress. As I said earlier, I'm looking forward to Silver Linings Playbook, just because she's in it and Bradley Cooper's in it. But X-Men First Class really did a fine job of rebooting the franchise. Now, it didn't make as much as the first X-Men movie, which made $209 million. First Class made $149. I expect X-Men First Class to, I don't even, they're doing Days of Future Past, that's the storyline. I don't know what they're calling the title, though. Whether they're calling it X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men 2 First Class Days of Future Past. I don't know the exact title right now. I'll probably have to get back to that next week. But X-Men First Class, Part 2, Days of Future Past, whatever they're going to call it, that one I expect to do well, mostly on the storyline alone. We're going to probably see cameos from the original class. We're going to see, I believe it's already been confirmed that Patrick Stewart's coming back to play the older Xavier, and that Sir Ian McKellen is coming back to play the older Magneto. But we'll have to see what happens. I still think it's going to make more than X-Men First Class. Then 2012 came. 2012 brought us the greatest comic book movie ever made. And yes, I'm a Marvel guy, so I may be biased, but financially speaking, the greatest comic book movie ever made, The Avengers, $617 million. Now, all these figures I'm giving you is all domestic. That means all North American. This does not include overseas in the UK. It does not include Australia, South America, Europe. I already said the UK, which is most of Europe, but Europe, Asia, it doesn't include those numbers. $617 million just in North America. To put that in perspective, that is still $40 million more, sorry, $50 million more than what The Dark Knight made, and The Dark Knight made so much bank because of the Heath Ledger aspect, and I really truly believe that. Yes, it was a great movie, and it was going to probably make a lot of money, but I think it made I think that extra $100 million, because I expected it to be in the $400 million range, and it made $567. That extra $100 million came from people wanting to see Heath Ledger's last full movie. Yes, he did the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which was finished after Dark Knight Rises, or The Dark Knight, and was put out with different actors playing the same role, and it kind of worked with the movie. However, the last full movie that he did was The Dark Knight, and I think that his death, may he rest in peace, helped bring up the bank in The Dark Knight. Now, they can spin it however they want. It was a phenomenal movie. Best DC movie ever. I will say that, which is why I think The Dark Knight Rises disappointed for a lot of you. The Dark Knight was like top of the food chain, and so it was really going to be hard to beat that or even come close to it. And The Dark Knight Rises kind of let you down a little bit. That's not saying Dark Knight Rises is a bad movie, just not as good as the last movie that you saw with Batman in it. The Avengers, however, had everything. It had comedy. It had action. It had drama. It had a great story. It had good acting. It brought an ensemble of movies and put them together into one. Something that DC has been trying to do for years and still hasn't done it. Hinted at it, but we haven't seen a Justice League movie. And if we do, I think it's going to be shit if they do it the way they're saying it. They're doing it now. Just to finish up before I continue on with the Justice League movie, The Amazing Spider-Man rounded out 2012 for Marvel, $261 million. This Spider-Man movie, while it didn't equal the number of money that the original Spider-Man Sam Raimi movie did, or even the second one that Sam Raimi did, or even the third one that Sam Raimi did, it was probably the better Spider-Man movie. That's not to say that Sam Raimi, who I love, I think he's a great director. I love the Evil Dead series. That's not to say that he made some bad movies. He did. He made the third one the way the studio wanted it, and now we have a new Spider-Man. However, I think the actor, Andrew Garfield, is a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire. I think the story they're doing is awesome. They're bringing in Gwen Stacy, never brought in the original. We had MJ, Mary Jane Watson, for those of you who don't know. We got to see the death of Captain Stacy. We got to see the Lizard, which was hinted at 3 movies from Sam Raimi, and we never got to see the Lizard. So, I mean, for me, The Amazing Spider-Man was actually the better of the movies. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the second one, but I have predictions. The second one is already been confirmed that the bad guy is Electro, which says to me they're not bringing in the Green Goblin. That is not to say that we're not going to see Norman Osborn. I think we will see Norman Osborn, and the Green Goblin is going to end up in the third one, and then that's when Gwen Stacy's going to get killed, because they are also introducing Mary Jane Watson into the second Amazing Spider-Man movie. So that's going to be interesting there. Now, I want to go back to the Justice League movie. The Justice League movie is going to be probably done where there's no lead-up. None of the actors that are playing the characters right now, apparently, are going to be in the Justice League movie. So, we already know Christopher Nolan's done with Batman. He is producing Man of Steel, which comes out next year. He is going to be involved with Warner Brothers, with other projects, and possibly with the DC Universe. But he's done with Batman, and as such, Christian Bale is no longer Batman. So no matter what happens, we're getting a new Batman. However, I've been hearing things where we're going to not see Henry Cavill, who's going to be playing Superman in the Man of Steel movie, in the Justice League movie. Now, this to me makes absolutely no sense. Apparently, they want to keep the Justice League movie separate from all their other movies. Yeah, okay. You don't want to follow a model that seems to be working. You just want to make a movie and put it out there and hope that people come see it. Now, people are probably going to go see it. It is a Justice League movie, and let's face it, some of those characters are hard to do solo movies of. However, they're going to reboot the Green Lantern franchise. They already said that. They keep hinting at a Wonder Woman movie. I would love to see a Wonder Woman movie. I think they can do it if it's done right. Now, Here's where it gets tricky. How do you bring them all together when at Warner Brothers, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing? And this is the problem with DC. All these facts and figures I've given you have shown that there's, the $1.5 billion difference. Now, like I said, Marvel made 28 movies, DC made 19, so that's a difference of quite a bit. That's 9-movie difference. So obviously Marvel has the advantage there. The closeness and where you see the real difference is that DC actually makes more per film. DC makes $208.1 million per movie. Marvel makes $201.8. But again, Marvel's put out 28 movies. So obviously the average is going to be skewed down because they've put out so much more. So who's making more money? Well, obviously right now it's Marvel. They're making $1.5 billion more. But again, that goes back to the Warner Brothers left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing. Nobody in the DC / Warner Brothers camp knows what the other writers are working on. Whereas Marvel Studios, especially now that Disney owns it, a lot of their intellectual properties that still belong to them, they know exactly what's going on. They're all comic book guys. They're working hard at everything. And they're putting out great movies. Now, Fox still owns X-Men. Sony still owns Spider-Man. Fox still owns Fantastic Four, and they're rebooting that. So these movies are still owned by other companies, yet it's probably good that they are, because we wouldn't be seeing these movies otherwise. Because Disney is so... I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they've got so much on their plate. Between Marvel, Lucasfilms, and their own movies, they have so many movies that they got to put out a year, and they're only allowed to put out so many movies a year. So they have to really watch what they're doing. We already know that DC's working on... Well, we got Man of Steel coming out next year. There's a Green Lantern movie in the works. There's supposed to be a Justice League movie in the works. There's supposed to be a Wonder Woman movie in the works. Other than that, we don't know what's going on with Batman. They're probably going to wait a while before rebooting Batman. I don't see them rebooting Batman until after the Justice League movie, if that gets made. So we'll have to see what happens there. However, Marvel's got like a friggin' 5-year plan, at least a 3-year plan. We've got next year, we've got Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. One coming out in May, the other one coming out in, I believe, November of 2013. In 2014, we have Captain America 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's 2 more movies, probably a spring for Captain America 2 and then a fall for the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is going to include Thanos, who we all know is going to be the big bad in Avengers 2, which comes out in 2015, probably in the spring, and then in the fall of 2015, Ant-Man. Now, a lot of people are just like, Ant-Man? Ant-Man? They're making a movie out of Ant-Man? I think it's going to be great, especially considering the guy, Edgar Wright, who's a British director. I like him. I like his work. He's going to do a great job with it, and I'm looking forward to that movie, and I believe we may see hints of Hank Pym / Ant-Man / or... okay, forget what I just said. We're going to see hints of it in the next few movies, either in Iron Man 3, Thor, Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Avengers 2. We're going to see hints of that. We may even see Ant-Man in Avengers 2, maybe just not as Ant-Man quite yet. Either way, they're interconnected. All these movies from Marvel are interconnected, something DC is not doing. Alright, done with the movie talk, but sticking with the comic theme, we're going to get to the comic releases for the week. Alright, DC Comics' Death in the Family series has 2 titles coming out for the series this week. Nightwing number 15 and Red Hood and the Outlaws number 15. 3 other books from DC that you might want to check out. Also, all number 15s. Birds of Prey, Catwoman, and Green Lantern, all coming out with new comic books this Wednesday. And we'll have to see what happens with the Death of the Family series. It's going to be winding up there in the new year, but it's getting really good right now. Marvel's releases for this week, the 5 that I'm looking forward to are Avengers plus X-Men number 3, All New X-Men number 4, Avengers number 2, Captain Marvel number 8, and Hawkeye number 6. My top 5 non-big comic books from Dark Horse Comics, Angel and Faith number 17, From Dynamite Entertainment, Bionic Woman number 6 and Vampirella number 25. From IDW Publishing, Star Trek The Next Generation, Doctor Who Assimilation number 2. And from Image Comics, Witchblade number 162. Alright, that concludes the comic portion. Now I'd like to get into a little bit of sports. As you know, I'm a big football fan. Just finished watching the Monday night game. Tennessee defeated the New York Jets 14-10. That's right, I said Tennessee beat the Jets. The Jets lost to Tennessee. Tennessee is one of the worst teams in the league, and the Jets just lost to them. That being said, my team's out of the playoffs. They suck. I know they suck, but they're still my team because I'm not a bandwagon jumper. I hate people who are bandwagon jumpers, and I'll name you one of the teams that has the biggest bandwagon jumpers in the whole world, and that's the New England Patriots. Now, I say this not because they are successful. However, I've been watching football since about 1989. That's a long time to get some kind of trend. So, that's over 23 years of football. When I used to watch the New England Patriots play my Buffalo Bills, when they were in New England, I could see empty seats galore. Nobody was watching this team. Nobody watched this team until they won a Super Bowl. Nobody cared about the New England Patriots until they won a Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden, some whole bunch of fans they're selling out stadiums, they're winning more Super Bowls, they're cheating to win the Super Bowls, but they're winning them. Cheating but winning, they didn't get caught till after they won them, so, I mean, what can you do? I have no respect for Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots. I have no respect for him whatsoever. I don't care what he does from the time that he was found guilty till the end of his career. I have no respect for that man whatsoever. I used to be a Tom Brady fan. I never admitted that before, but it's because my favorite college team, and we don't get a lot of college football up here in Canada, but my favorite college team is the Michigan Wolverines. He played for the Michigan Wolverines, and back then I cheered for him. However, from then on, I have not been a Tom Brady fan, mostly because he plays for the New England Patriots, which, at the time, when he first came into the league, he was opponent for my Buffalo Bills, so why would I root for him? I was glad that he got drafted by a football team. You always want to see players succeed. Well, maybe you don't. But the New England Patriots, to me, are the worst team when it comes to bandwagon jumpers because they had no fans, and then all of a sudden they've got thousands of fans. I prefer somebody who would watch their team go 0-16, Detroit Lion fans, I'm talking to you, and still cheer for your team. You know why? Because that's a true fan. If you can sit through all the horribleness that is your team and still be a fan for when they eventually, you hope, win things again, that's a true fan. I'm a fan of a lot of losers. I cheer for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, the Toronto Maple Leafs in the NHL, the Toronto Blue Jays in baseball. I can't stand basketball, so I don't watch the Raptors, and I probably wouldn't be a fan of the Raptors anyways. When I did watch basketball, I was a Chicago Bulls fan. I'd probably still be a Chicago Bulls fan, because like I said, I'm not a bandwagon jumper, but I just don't like basketball anymore. I don't watch it anymore. I barely know. I can name you some players, mostly because I watch like Sports Center and Sports Desk and all those other sports shows. However, I couldn't name you many players. Like, I couldn't name you a full team. I can name you some players. I can't name you a full team. I can't even probably name all the teams in the league anymore because they keep moving. Like, I mean, the Oklahoma's the Thunder. I think the Vancouver Grizzlies are now in Memphis. The Charlotte Hornets are now in New Orleans. So I mean, I couldn't tell you all the teams, but I'm just not a basketball fan. However, I'm a big football fan, and while my team might be out of the playoffs, and they got slaughtered this weekend in Toronto by the Seattle Seahawks, who again I think are a little bit greedy, running up the scores in their last two games, pulling a New England Patriots thing. New England likes to do that. They like to run up the score. I was so happy this weekend to see the New England Patriots lose. I think if I had my dream Super Bowl of the teams that are probably going to make, some of them are definitely going to make the playoffs, I would love to see the Denver Broncos versus the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. Now, is that a prediction? Sure, let's call it a prediction. I predict the Denver Broncos versus the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. That might not happen, but That's what I like to see. That's what I'm predicting to see. I think that would be a great Super Bowl matchup. However, there's controversy in San Francisco. Colin Kaepernick, the rookie quarterback, has come in. He's won 3 games in a row because Alex Smith, well, first initially it was a concussion. Now he's ready to play, but not playing. Coach has 2 number 1 starters really right now. Not a bad thing to have, but what happens next year? That's always the key. What happens next year? One of these quarterbacks are probably going to have to go. The Jets, they have quarterback problems. Maybe Alex Smith can find a job there because I don't know if they're going to trade Sanchez. I think they're going to release Tebow. The Jets are in trouble at quarterback. There's a few teams that could use Tennessee could use a quarterback, even though they won tonight. I think the the San Francisco 49ers are probably the team to beat in the West, or in the NFC. They're definitely the team to beat in the West. They won their division. But I think they're the team to beat in the NFC, and I still believe no matter how good no matter how good Tom Brady is, Peyton Manning has been playing lights out. And you get hot at the right time, and you can lead your team all the way to the playoffs, all the way through the playoffs, all the way through the Super Bowl to Super Bowl championship. Good example, Peyton's little brother Eli. Eli did it last year. He did it a few years ago when they beat the New England Patriots, what they've now done twice in the Super Bowl. You get hot at the right time, no matter what team you are, no matter what sport you're playing. If you got hot at the right time, you can win a championship and not be the best team. The New York Giants did it last year. I think the Denver Broncos, who are a good team because they have a solid defense, they're not great, but they're solid. They have a potent offense, and any offense led by Peyton Manning is definitely a potent offense. They have a good serious chance. Now, the 2 teams they need to beat. Well, they don't necessarily have to beat them both, but the 2 teams that stand in their way of going to the Super Bowl, New England Patriots, sadly, and the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans have the offense. They had the defense, but I think the defense is kind of slacking. I think Houston might be the better choice. However, you still might have to face New England. New England's trying to get that home field advantage. They are very good at home, even though they did lose this past weekend at home. I think that if New England gets home field advantage, they have the advantage, and therefore could go to the Super Bowl yet again. God, I hope not. I can't stand them. I hate them. I hate their coach. I have no respect for them. There's nobody on that team that I really like. Maybe Wes Welker. I have respect for Wes Welker. He's a great football player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm sure of it. I just don't like the team. I think they run up scores when they can, and they do it on purpose. They don't run out the clock. They like to score. They can put any spin on it they want. That's all they like to do. When you have to make a comeback like they tried to do this past week against San Francisco, I understand passing all the time. When you're up by 30 points and you're passing on third and ones and fourth and goals and you're passing the football, no. You run the ball, you run the clock out, you win the game. You don't need to show off because one of these days it is going to come back to hurt them. They're not a young team anymore. Tom Brady's not young. He's not going to be there forever. And God, I cannot wait till he's gone. Because once he's gone, they've got nothing. Although I will say this. Stefan Ridley is a good running back. And if they can get a mediocre quarterback in there, they still might be a decent team. Sadly, I hate saying it, but I'm just saying it as I see it. They could still be a force to be reckoned with just because of Stephen Ridley. That doesn't mean he's going to be there that long either. Eventually, every team, especially in the NFL, ebbs and flows. Yes, my Buffalo Bills have not been in the playoffs for a very long time, but they are the only team to have made the Super Bowl 4 straight years. Yes, I know what you're saying. They lost all 4 years. They still made it there. They were still the best AFC team 4 years running. A kicker lost them their first one, and I think that jinxed them from then on. they couldn't put together a game good enough in the Super Bowl. But they made it there 4 years. That in and of itself is very spectacular. So, to sum up what I was saying, I'm happy that New England lost. They're still going to the playoffs. I don't have any say in that. I still predict that it's going to be quite the run for Denver. I think Denver has... the Denver Broncos right now are sitting second in the AFC, okay? This is one game behind the Houston Texans with 2 games remaining. If Houston loses both games and Denver wins both games, Denver gets home field advantage throughout the AFC, and that is what they need. They need to make sure New England doesn't get that home game. I think that Denver can beat New England in Denver. I think Denver can beat Houston in Denver. Denver needs to win out. Houston needs to lose out. The wild cards are still up for grabs. The Colts and the Bengals hold down the last 2 spots right now. Pittsburgh's right there with the Jets lost tonight. That kind of drops them a little bit further back. So it's going to be between this Indianapolis Colts, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Pittsburgh Steelers for those last 2 wild card spots. And I believe I'm going to say that it's going to stay status quo. I'm going to say that Houston, Denver, New England, and Baltimore, who are all the division winners, are obviously in. The Colts and the Bengals will get in. I predict... Well, Cincinnati would face New England as it stands right now. The Colts would face the Ravens. That being said, I think New England advances past the Bengals. I think the Colts beat the Ravens if the Ravens keep playing the way they are. And then we'll see what happens from there. But moving to the NFC standings, 3 teams have now clinched. Last week we only had the Falcons that have clinched. The NFC now is up for grabs. With the Falcons decimating the Giants, they take a little bit of a lead. However, if they lose their next 2 and San Francisco wins their next 2, San Francisco can win the NFC. Green Bay Packers kind of nipping at the heels, but at 10-4, probably not going to get there. San Francisco can finish 12-3. Atlanta could finish up as high as 14-2, but they could also drop to 12-4 because San Francisco has that tie. They would actually be the first place seed. So San Francisco can still bump down the Atlanta Falcons. Where it gets murky is the the NFC East and then the wild cards. The NFC East standings are 8-6, 3 8-6 teams, with the Washington Redskins currently holding down the top spot in the NFC East. But the other 2 teams, both the Giants and the Cowboys, are on the outside looking in when it comes to the wild card. The Seattle Seahawks have one of the wild cards probably wrapped up. Not nice, pretty bow, but they probably got it wrapped up just because of the NFC East division battles. Where the other teams come into play is you got the Seattle Seahawks, the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, all fighting out for those last 2 wild cards. I think the Washington Redskins are going to win the NFC East. I truly believe that. I don't think the other 2 teams can do it. I think that I don't even think they're going to get a wild card. Chicago and Minnesota, they're going to battle out for that last wild card. Like I said, I think Seattle's got theirs locked up. Chicago, Minnesota, they're going to battle it out, and that's 2 division rivals battling it out. I don't know if they play each other the rest of the season. I'm going to just take a quick look here if I can find the schedule. All right, let's see, regular season schedule. So it's going to take a second to load up here. Week 16. Let's see who they play. Slow computer, apparently. Okay, so Week 16 looks to be the Chicago Bears are playing... No, that's not Chicago, that's Detroit. Detroit Lions are playing Atlanta, so that doesn't help. Alright, let's see here. Where's Chicago? Where's... I don't see Chicago. Well, that's not right. There we go. Chicago's playing the Cardinals. That's a winnable game for the Chicago Bears. The Minnesota Vikings are playing the Texans. Not so winnable game for the Texans. So that could be tough. for them. It could be really tough if they. Could be good for Chicago fans if they lose to. If the Vikings lose to the Texans, which is very likely, but like I said, it's going to be tough to beat the Texans, although their defense has been a little bit under the weather, shall we say. They haven't been performing as good as they should be, is what I'm saying. And I'm just going to look into Week 17 to see if they play each other. If they don't, then they kind of don't hold their destiny in their own hands, so to speak. They have to hope for that they win their games. That they have, obviously, but then they have to hope for help. And you can't always count on help every week, especially when you're playing football, because as the saying goes, any given Sunday, any team can win. So if I'm looking at Week 17 here, the Vikings play the Packers. So that could be good news for Chicago. Chicago has a little bit of an easier schedule, playing the Arizona Cardinals and the Lions, both winnable games, and the Vikings playing the Packers and the Texans, both losable games. So could be interesting to see what happens. We'll have to see how it all plays out over the next couple of weeks. Now, being a sports fan, obviously there's still no hockey. They're still in the lockout. I think I said pretty much all I could say about that last week. The only thing that I can add is that the NHLPA is now seriously considering decertification, which is bad all around. It's bad for the players. It's bad for the owners. It's worse for the fans. I don't know if we're going to see NHL hockey ever again. At least not. We might not see NHL hockey ever again. I just don't know what's going to happen. I've seen posts on the internet saying that maybe the 7 Canadian teams should just form their own league and give the fans. Basically, the way I've been reading some of the articles, if decertification happens, we could see all contracts void. No team has players. It would be horrible. Like, you'd have to sign players. Teams would have to go out and court their players and hope that they sign back. And it just would be a mess. And I already think this season's over, but I don't even know if we come back next year. I don't know if there's going to be NHL hockey, and it saddens me. I'm disappointed. I love hockey. It's one of my favorite sports to watch. It's one of my favorite sports to play fantasy sports with. I do fantasy football, fantasy hockey, fantasy baseball. Missing out on that this year. Football, while enjoyable, has about a month and a half left. And then it's over. And then you got a big gap before baseball season starts. I don't know what to do as far as sports are concerned, because like I said, I am definitely not a basketball fan. Maybe I'll have to watch some basketball. You know what? I'd rather watch curling. I'll watch some curling. We'll talk about curling sports. Yeah, I guess everybody will love that. Just a quick baseball note. Blue Jays acquire a new pitcher today. Officially, they made the trade yesterday, Sunday. Today being Monday. When you listen to this, it'll be Wednesday. But the Toronto Blue Jays signed R.A. Dickey from the Mets. They made a trade to acquire Dickey. They also got catcher Josh Thole and a minor league catcher, Mike Nikias. I can't really say that I'm pronouncing that right. Now, R.A. Dickey was last year's National League Cy Young Award winner. He's a knuckleballer. He's 38 years old. That's right, he's 38 years old. He agreed to the extension. Looks to be about a 3-year deal. Terms are not released, but it's probably in the $25 to $30 million range. So approximately he's going to be making about $7 to $10 million per year. Excuse me. Now, what I don't like about this deal is what we give up. When I say we, I mean the Toronto Blue Jays, me being a fan. The Toronto Blue Jays gave up Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard. 2 top prospects. 2 very good prospects. Now, they've also given up John Buck, a veteran catcher who was probably going to be a backup this year anyway, and the guy they're bringing in from the Mets, Josh Toll, will probably be the backup, which tells me JP Aaron Sebia will be the starting catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays this coming season, because they just traded away their two best catchers otherwise. They also got a minor leaguer named Wilmer Becerra. I can't pronounce. They gave up a minor leaguer named Wilmer Becerra. I'm not good with names when they're spelled really weird like that. So I don't know too much about him. But John Buck, he was a decent backup catcher. He came in and spelled JP when JP was hurt. But Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard are why I don't like this deal. The Toronto Blue Jays are getting a 38-year-old pitcher, knuckleballer, in the American League, where he was playing in the National League before. Yes, Toronto's made some good moves this offseason. However, I don't believe this is one of them. It could end up being that, but I'm torn because I think the Jays have a starting rotation now. They have 5 solid pitchers, in my opinion. Barring injuries, you always got to say that. Barring injuries, they got a solid 5-man rotation. However, sacrificing the future, all I got to say is if the Blue Jays don't make the playoffs this year, this was a horrible deal. If they don't make the playoffs in whatever capacity, this is a horrible deal. They have to win. Maybe not win the AL East, but they better be 1-2. They better be in that 1-2 spot. They better win. They better make the playoffs and get in and do some damage, because otherwise this is a bust. This is a fail, and Alex Anthopoulos may have to rethink his contract, because he might not be there much longer if this is a bust. Because there's been a lot of money committed this offseason. They've made some big trades, huge deals. That huge deal with the Marlins earlier this year. They've signed this pitcher to an extension. They have to make the playoffs, especially losing 2 top prospects like Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, I am a wrestling fan myself. Last night was WWE TLC pay-per-view. I just want to get into that a little bit. Dolph Ziggler and John Cena were in the main event, so I'm going to get to that last. But Team Rhodes Scholars defeated Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara to become the number 1 contenders to the tag team titles. I think they had the number 1 contenders match simply because CM Punk got hurt, and because he got hurt, he couldn't wrestle at the pay-per-view, so they changed up the main event, and instead of having a tag team title match like I think we would have had, excuse me, we got the number 1 contenders match instead. And Team Rhodes Scholars defeated Rey and Sin Cara to win the number 1 contenders match. The Divas title was on the line. Eve Torres defeated Naomi. Naomi is a Funkadactyl for Brodus Clay. She won a match with a little bit of help earlier on. It wasn't on the pay-per-view. It was on the pre-show on YouTube. And YouTube's not a sponsor. It was on a pre-show there. And Naomi won a Santa Helper Battle Royal, whatever that is. They were dressed like in little Santa bikinis and stuff like that. You know, it's all show. I'm not a big fan of the Divas division anymore. I miss the days of Trish Stratus and Lita, who actually knew how to wrestle. That's not to say that some of these women don't know how to wrestle. It's just saying that I think more now than ever, it's just eye candy. They're just beautiful women in bikinis or tight clothing. You know, they're there for the male audience, and they look good. Not a lot of them know wrestling moves as much as they used to. There's a few out there that do. I can think of the Glamazon and Natalia. They're pretty good. Tamina, she's pretty good. But other than that, most of them are just for show, and this was a match of that. Even Naomi are more for show than anything else, and Eve retained the title. An impromptu match was made. The Miz had his show, Miz TV, and he had 3MB, the 3-man band, Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal, and Drew McIntyre on the show. Well, they started going off and being idiots like they are, and they came down to ringside and started harassing the Spanish announce team, and then Ricardo Rodriguez came out and they started roughing him out. So Alberto Del Rio came out, and a brawl ensued. So the 3MB challenged The Miz and Alberto to a tag match with a third tag meet of their choosing. So later on in the night, they come back, and the third man for The Miz and Alberto Del Rio, they were in Brooklyn, New York, so they brought the Brooklyn Brawler. Of all people, the Brooklyn Brawler is still alive, still wrestling, and they brought him into the match. And guess what, folks? They won. And the final pinfall was scored by the Brooklyn Brawler, of course with a little help from The Miz and the skull-crushing finale. The U.S. title was on the line, Antonio Cesaro versus R-Truth. I like both these competitors, both for different reasons. I think R-Truth is excellent on the mic. His wrestling skills need a little bit of tweaking, but he's an excellent mic man. You need both to succeed, but he's working on the wrestling. He does very well. Antonio Cesaro, he needs to work on the mic a little bit. However, cannot doubt his talent. Hence, Antonio Cesaro retained the title by defeating R-Truth. Another title up for grabs, the Intercontinental title was on the line. Kofi Kingston versus Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett and the Barrett Barrage was stopped by Kofi Kingston. I thought for sure Wade Barrett was going to win this match. This was the only surprise for me for the night. I thought that Kofi Kingston was actually going to lose the title tonight, and I was actually disappointed that he didn't. That he retained the title. I would like to see Barrett get some more in-ring time, and I'd like to see him wrestling more. He's a very good competitor. He's very smart. He's really good on the microphone. He's got the talent to go far. I was expecting him to win, but Kofi Kingston, not a bad wrestler in his own right, and I think they're going to probably still work this angle, maybe going into Royal Rumble. Another match that this was the replacement match. This was supposed to be a match of Ryback versus CM Punk for the WWE title. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, CM Punk was hurt. He couldn't wrestle. His knees were his knees was hurt, so he couldn't go. So obviously they made this match. They put Ryback in a 6-man tag. His tag team partners being Team Hell No, Kane and Daniel Bryan, and they took on this new group, The Shield. And I'm not even going to give you names. Why? Because I think it's bullshit. Just like when they started to do the Nexus. The Nexus was bullshit. The only good wrestlers that came out of the Nexus were Wade Barrett. Just incredible, in my opinion. There's some other, like Heath Slater's a bum. Some of the other guys were in NXT, but the Shield just strikes me as filler. They're there for filler. They're not going to be around for a very long time, I don't think. And if they are, I'm going to be disappointed. However, the Shield defeated Team Hell No and Ryback, which I wasn't surprised at, but was disappointed at. Like I said, I think this was a BS all around. This is bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. No way should the Shield defeat Team Hell No and Ryback. I don't care what you're trying to do as far as storylines are concerned. This was bad. The co-main event of the evening, which was the world title match, featured Big Show versus Sheamus in a chairs match. There were exactly 17 chair shots. Let me see if I added that right. Sorry, there were exactly 15 chair shots. I miscounted two. The final chair shot that won the match was with a gigantic chair, which was apropos since the Giant used it. Now, I knew Big Show was going to win. I just had this feeling that they weren't going to give Sheamus back the title, at least not yet. I had a feeling Big Show was going to win this match. However, I began speculating when I found out that they were going to make the Dolph Ziggler versus John Cena ladder match for the Money in the Bank contract as the main event. And I knew that the Big Show versus Sheamus chairs match was going to take place probably a few matches before, which it did. In my mind, I was like working out my own storyline, which I knew wasn't going to happen, but I still had it in my mind. So I'll give you my scenario. My scenario was that Big Show would lose the title, where Sheamus would win, and then Mr. Dolph Ziggler would come out, cash in his Money in the Bank, and win the title, and then the main event becomes a ladder match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now that would have probably been a lot cooler than what actually happened. Because what actually happened is, like I said, Big Show knocked the hell out of Sheamus, first with the KO punch, and then with a gigantic chair shot. That was the 8th chair shot that Sheamus took. Excuse me. And Big Show only took 7. So the chair shots were kind of even, considering Big Show took 30 chair shots the last pay-per-view from Sheamus. But in the end, the Big Show retained the title, so obviously my little hopeful scenario that was playing out in my mind wasn't going to happen. On to the main event. Dolph Ziggler versus John Cena in the Money in the Bank ladder match, basically. The contract hanging above the ring. First person to retrieve it wins the match. Went back and forth for quite some time. John Cena finally hit a move that had Ziggler out. He's climbing the ladder. Then all of a sudden Vicky Guerrero comes out, but then she's stopped by AJ Lee, and everybody's like, yeah, AJ Lee! Don't trust a crazy bitch. Sorry, but you just don't trust a crazy bitch. And John Cena shouldn't have trusted AJ Lee. As soon as AJ Lee took out Vicky Guerrero, Cena tried to climb the ladder, gets about halfway up, and boom. AJ Lee locks down the ladder. John Cena hits the ropes. Then he gets hit by Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler climbs the ladder, retains the Money in the Bank contract, and John Cena's left in the ring going, what the hell just happened? Well, John, what just happened was you got AJ Lead. You got screwed by the crazy bitch. Something that the Big Show, Daniel Bryan, Kane, and CM Punk know all too well about. You are just another one in a long line of AJ Lee screwjobs. So, with that being said, I'm done with the wrestling segment. I'm actually going to be wrapping up the show, and I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you can listen to Warlock Hour every Wednesdays on the Warlock Wednesdays on the Another Podcast Network. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. You can also find it on iTunes. Listen to the other shows on the network every Monday. We've got Another Monday, which is the podcast done by OJ and James, and that's on every Monday night. Every Monday. You can download that at iTunes or anotherpodcast.com. And don't forget Real Tuesdays with OJ and James again. They got a special guest this week, OJ's cousin. I forget his name, unfortunately, but listen to Real Tuesdays and listen to some music inspired by movies. So that's Another Monday, Real Tuesday, and me, Warlock Wednesdays. I'm Razor, and have a good day, everyone.